Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne production. Now available on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, here we are sitting down with James Storm. The Cowboy rolled into Los Angeles, California, my neck of the woods, all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. Before I paint a picture for our listeners, James, welcome to the crib. How are you today?
Man, I'm doing great. It's beer 30, right?
It is beer 30. And I talked to James. I said, you know, he sent me a tweet on his Twitter account. On your Twitter account, you what? James Cowboy /James /Storm?
Some bitches all messed up.
What the hell happened? There was already a Cowboy. Y'all just heard me pop a top. We're drinking beer up in this mug. So why all the /?
I think I was drunk when I was trying to type, and I thought it was a space instead of the underscores.
Never try to create a Twitter name while you're drunk, and I've already told you this, never get on eBay when you're drunk either, or you will buy Broncos and El Caminos, and it will be a bad situation. So anyway, James came into Los Angeles to take care of a little bit of business, and I said, we might as well drink some beer. So he got him a damn six-pack of Coors Light, and I got a can of something I'm drinking here. So cheers.
Cheers, man.
Swig of beer to the working man. Okay, dig this. You just rolled in from Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
You up here in Marina Del Rey. You was out and about on the streets of Los Angeles. Where did you go? To Beverly Hills, Hollywood today? Where at?
Yeah, well, went over to Hollywood, a couple meetings over there at Paramount Picture Studios or whatever. So. All
right, so check it out. You're a country boy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't imagine that this is a gimmick. This is an act. I don't think you too much city slicker.
No, not that much.
Okay, so you roll up in Los Angeles and ride around. I know this ain't your first time to town, but what's your impressions? How is this vibe different from the Nashville area where we come up in?
Well, it's one of those things. I walk down the street looking the way I do, and everybody just stares at me like this.
People staring at you?
This son of a bitch does not belong here.
Yeah, but hold on. Now, why do you think they're thinking you don't belong?
Well, number one, hell, half of them's all clean shaved and suits and everything else, and here I am with cowboy boots, blue jeans, and long hair.
You got that long sleeve shirt rolled up. You got your forearms all swole up. You got that cross around your neck, that big chain. Now, you got this gadget going on your face here because you done tricked out the beard since the last time I seen you. And I met you, James, a couple of years ago at the Legends Bar in Nashville, Tennessee, when I was about to promote. We was going to the CMT Music Awards and promoting Redneck Island. I don't remember what season it was, and you came down by the Legends Bar.
It was the first season.
Yeah. And we drank a bunch of beer together. Did you add this contraption here on the downside here?
Yeah, man, this is my heel look now.
So you done turned heel. So no, you got to see. You got a fresh picture on your Twitter account. Yeah, I'm talking about. No, we're going to take a picture and then I'll put it on my Twitter account anyway. So, dude, you got this contraption on your face, this gadget beard, as we would call it. Now, it looks good on you.
Gimmick.
Yeah, it's a gimmick, but it looks good, and you done turned heel. So, how hard is it to maintain that motherfucker?
Oh, it sucks. I'm half blind in my left eye, so trying to shave this son of a bitch up here, and you mess it up. You in trouble.
Dude, and then look at my scraggly-ass goatee. When I get in there with my double-blade razor and try to trim these curb feelers right here, when I trim, if I nick into one and then you look like shit, for a couple of days, I think, God damn, you
so short.
Yeah.
So short and used to it being long. Yeah, it's.
So what's with the new look? You switched heel over there in TNA or what?
Yeah, man, I switched heel and, I'm loving it. It's one of those things that it's just a new, refreshed gimmick for me. Like, I'm having fun doing it. Hadn't been heel in probably 8-9 years, so I just want to kind of do something,
Whose idea was it?
It was my idea. I've been babyface so long, and some of the runs that I had was just, not really what I wanted. And I was like, time for me to do something different.
We were talking earlier. I said, and I'll ask you right now while the recorder's rolling. You like working heel or baby better?
Well, I told you heel, but the problem is you fucked that up for all the heels because everybody wants to cheer the bad guy now because they see this guy just whooping the shit out of this pretty boy because the pretty boys are not baby faces anymore. Nobody wants to cheer for a guy that has 6 packs, 6'4", clean shaved. Everybody wants to see that rugged son of a bitch that's beating the hell out of him.
Well, yeah, the thing, I guess I brought an intrinsic amount of entertainment to the bad side of things. But in my honest attempt, I mean, that was my attempt at being a heel. And then just based on the way society or the things were back in the day and things started flipping for me. And I remember, I've told this story several times. Brian had just came up, Brian Pillman, just come up to WWF. And I'd go out there and I'd get a bigger pop than the babyface I was working with. And he'd be back here because, Brian loved being a heel.
Yeah.
And he'd come back here and he'd be laughing at me right when I come back through the doors from working the match. He goes, "God damn it, kid, you're a babyface." And I'd say, "Hey, fuck you, man." I said, "I'm a fucking heel." Because, you take that serious.
Right, yeah.
And so, it was Vince's vision to flip me, and we did
Right.
the turn at 13. And, my run was what it was. And I had an absolute blast working as quote-unquote babyface Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I love working heel. To me, they're just there's more freedom, more liberty,
right.
more you can push the envelope in more different directions, in my estimation.
Yeah, I always say it's easier to piss somebody off than it is to make somebody happy.
That's a damn simplified way of putting it, and I think that hits it right on the head.
That's it. And every time I go out, and now I'm fresh off a babyface run, and so people really don't want to boo me right now. So I'm doing everything I can.
So who are you feuding with right now?
Ken Anderson.
How's
I
that going?
just came off a feud with Gunner, and so now me and Ken's kind of starting something up right now, and it's fresh. We got a couple matches. I think we're going to work each other at Slammiversary. So
now you're 36, right?
Yeah.
How long you been in the business? 12?
17 years.
17 years?
Yeah.
You old motherfucker. This is what it looked like my old buddy Brian Knives, a guy like you, as young as you are, have that many years in the business, call him the young old guy. He's still young as far as a human being goes, but you got a lot of years in the business.
Yeah, you feel like you're 50.
Yeah.
You've been in the business that
so
long.
that being said, with 17 years in the business, how is the body feeling? Because I know I only made 13 or 14, I kind of had a, aggressive bump style. You do as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I really feel like shit. So you still got a lot of gas left in the tank. First off, how you feeling? Then let's talk about how much you got left in the ring.
Yeah, man. I like, every time I tell somebody 17 years, they always give me that, ooh.
Anybody that knows will
Right.
give that,
Yeah, they're like, and I've, I don't want to say I filled up my bump card, but hey, I'm about halfway through it. So it's one of those things where, I still got a lot of gas in the tank. And
But on a physical level, no knee surgeries, no shoulder surgeries.
yeah, I've actually had my eye socket repaired, my left eye socket right here.
Now,
And
tell me about this eye damage you was talking about. You having a hard time seeing out of that. What did you do that thing? In the ring?
Yeah, I got hit with a chair, and some bitch had it turned the wrong way. The seat part that had the lip on it, and the lip caught me right there and just split it wide open. And this whole part was hanging down. You see my damn eyeball through it. It was.
If there's one thing I can't stand is a motherfucker who don't know what he's doing when he's swinging a steel chair. Because now, James, tell me. Now, dig this. When I went to professional wrestling school with gentleman Chris Adams back in 1989, they taught me how to chain wrestle. They told me how to take a bump. They damn sure didn't tell me how to swing a steel chair. That was on-the-job training.
Right.
So you take the chair, and people always ask me, do those steel chairs hurt? Yeah, they hurt like a motherfucker. God, but so what happened? Did you finish the match?
Yeah.
Did it crush the socket?
Yeah, it actually broke it right here. There's they had to shave it off right there and sew it back up and everything. And so yeah, I'm partially blind in my left eye right here. So I actually get fucked up when I have to wrestle in a dark place with yellow ropes and stuff, and I have to do my steps, make sure it's so it's it's a hassle.
So other than that, then
I've had my shoulder repaired. I broke it training with Wolfie D back in '96.
Back in the day, man. Yeah, I remember Wolfie D from back when I was in Memphis.
Yeah, I broke my shoulder, compound fracture. Went in, had emergency surgery on it. Couldn't use it for 9 months.
How's that thing now?
It's stronger than my left one.
Really?
Yeah.
Sometimes I got lucky. I had my shoulder rebuilt 2 years ago now. And they put 8 screws and 2 staples in that motherfucker. And I'm 100%. And I talked to a lot of my buddies that have had the rotator cuffs and stuff done, and oh man, their shit just don't come back for them because it's just a tricky joint. And you're 100% on that thing.
Yeah, and when I first came back from it, it's like anything else. Like I was scared to bump.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how I was gonna hold up, and then 4 or 5 matches in, I just completely forgot about it and just went on about my bumping business.
Okay, so the rest of the carcass
it's holding up pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, 17 years in the business. You prefer working heel. How long did it take you once you started? Now, Dutch Mantell had a hand in breaking you in?
Yeah, well, actually, I met Dutch back when because I grew up watching USWA, and I went to the USWA wrestling school.
Yep.
And Eddie Marlin and Jeff Jarrett's dad, Jerry Jarrett, was running it out at Jerry's farm in his old barn, and it was dusty as hell, just hot. And and we would be out there, training. And Wolfie was the trainer. So we'd go out there every Saturday morning, and then we had to go over to the fairgrounds and set the ring up.
Stop. What are y'all doing out there? Because you're talking about around the Hendersonville area, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you out there in Jarrett's barn. What kind of training y'all doing? Y'all bumping, chain wrestling, the simple shit?
Yeah,
basics.
No, we ran the damn ropes forever.
Run the ropes.
Yeah, I mean they say, well, before you can even do anything, you need to learn how to run the ropes or whatever.
Agreed.
Then one or two weekends was like running the ropes, and then after that we learned just to take back bumps.
Isn't it amazing when you were in your teachings there, how many people were in the school with you?
Man, there was probably almost 60 people.
Man, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, I think I broke in when I think there's about 30 people when I started. I mean, and we just only had one ring, probably like y'all did. So let me ask you, the question is, ain't it funny how some people just seem like they're allergic to the ropes?
Oh,
because some people don't want to cascade and crisscross and hit those motherfuckers like you want to. And you can't just bounce on them ropes. You got to attack the ropes.
You got to hit them.
Yeah.
Like, I see a lot of people nowadays, they just kind of barely run into them. Like, no, you need to hit them some bitches.
Because they throw you back across, man. I mean, you get that good rebound. If there's one thing I can't stand is a mealy-mouthed motherfucker lollygagging while he's trying to hit the damn ropes in the middle of a spot because he's scared they're going to hurt his ribs. But it's funny because that's one of the hardest people for some people to attack.
Yeah, it is. And, we after that, then we kind of went into the basics, locking up and.
Gotta lock up.
Yeah.
Goddamn, I always say a shitty lockup is a real good start to what can be a real shitty match.
Yeah.
That lockup means everything because that's okay. Here's
that
what we're doing
everything.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to limp into this thing and brother-in-law each other and, hey, tell everybody it's a fucking work.
Right.
Or you're going to go in there with a good snug lockup. And then you ain't got to kill each other.
No.
Like Ricky Morton, I mean, you like Ricky make a good lockup, but you wouldn't feel it.
Yeah.
But
soft
it looks
as a
good.
feather. Yeah.
Soft as a feather. So it ain't got to hurt. It's just got to look good.
Yeah. It's
so
an illusion. That's what I tell everybody.
Yeah. So keep going.
So, we learned all that. And then I remember it was about 6 weeks in is when I broke my shoulder. I was about 150 pounds then, and they wanted me to do some damn flip, clothesline me, flip, land. I said, I ain't never done one of them some bitches in my life. He goes, oh, no, well, I'll hit you, and you'll go. Well, he didn't hit me good enough, and I came right down the shoulder and just popped it right out.
So you get the emergency surgery for that. You're down for how long, and then you get back in when?
I was down about 8-9 months, and then I came back, and they had shut down the school, so I had to go and find some other training somewhere.
My Chris Adams training school, I can't remember what the other students paid. I guess we all paid the same money. But when I talked to Chris, I was charged $1,500 to learn how to wrestle. I think when it was all said and done, I had paid $1,000 of it, and he let me slide on another $500 if I remember the story correctly, because we were cool and we were working that hot angle that helped me out a whole lot and helped me get Rookie of the Year because of the high-profile feud with him and everybody involved. What did it cost you to learn how to wrestle, or at least on that first endeavor?
When I first signed up, I had to pay $1,000.
Okay,
and then it was $20 every time we come. We had to give them $20.
Okay,
and man, and I can see why they charge that fee up front because them some bitches start dropping like flies.
Damn right they do.
They started hitting that mat, and
yeah,
they didn't want no more of it.
Okay, so then you that school shuts down. You're back in action, but you still need some training. So you go where?
Yeah, so I went up to Columbia, Tennessee, and Tony Falk was up there.
Yeah, Cowboy Tony Falk. Goddamn. That's a name I have not heard in a long time. Tony used to referee a lot of my matches, and Tony was a good worker.
Yeah, oh yeah,
good solid mechanic. So I don't know, Tony, listen to this show, but hello, Cowboy Tony Falk from Steve Austin. So keep going.
Yeah, so I met up with Tony Falk and this guy named Ben Jordan that was up in WWE for a little bit doing some jobs, and they told me to find this other guy named Shane Morton, or Ricky Morton's nephew or whatever. He does a little training, so I met up with him and trained just a little bit more, and then started doing the independents around Tennessee and Mississippi and stuff. And first match, I drove down to Jackson, Mississippi, $5.
Jackson, Mississippi, $5. God damn.
And I had to drive it while the rest of some bitches sat in the back and just drank the whole time.
Man, I remember looking back at a couple of my pay stubs when I first started working with Jarrett. My lowest pay for him was $15, but pretty much I averaged about $20 a shot for many, many nights. $5, that's a pretty thin dime. But you know what, man, when I look back at those times when I was in USWA, and man, I had a damn good, a pretty good WCW run. I got a little disenchanted towards the end. It was a good thing I got fired, and then I came into WWF, a shitty gimmick, then turned into Stone Cold. It was great. It was a great ride. Right. But some of my most fun times, James, were paying dues. And I was starving, just like you making $5 a night, and I was making 15. Shit,
I was hungry.
What am I complaining about? And I was eating raw potatoes, and it was bad. Yeah. But those were some of the most fun times because you're so green. And were you traveling with any veterans that you could learn from and pick their brain?
I trained, Wolfie and all those guys, and what was down in Memphis with Lawler and all those guys, and I learned go to the dressing room, shut up, listen, and that's what I did. I listened to these some bitches talk, Lawler and Dundee and all these guys, and Dutch was down there, and I just listened to like how they would put matches together and what they would do when they went out there, and I sat at that curtain and watched them, and it's cool now because I'll look and I'll see Kurt Angle sit at the curtain at TNA, and he'll watch every damn match, man.
Still,
even after he goes on, he'll come back and sit there and watch it. And I'm looking around at all these other green people who should be watching, and they don't give a flying.
That's a testament. I mean, I remember that we was in a little spot show, and I went out there and worked with a guy in a hood, stunk the joint out, and I came back. Dutch cussed me out like he should have. I told a story before, and he said, "You see that steel chair over there?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You get that steel chair, and you go sit in the door. You watch every match on the card." So I watched every goddamn match on the card from then on, all the way till I got out of business, damn near as much as I could. But that's a testament to Kurt Angle. I got so much respect for that guy. I remember watching him have a match down in Jacksonville, Florida. It was a television taping. We was all sitting out on a bunch of chairs before the matches. I always loved working Jacksonville, that old Coliseum. And there was a little bit, these days it's so high profile. There was a couple 18-wheelers out there with some steel chairs. And Kurt Angle came up to me and said hello and paid his respects. I was starting to get a little bit of momentum. At least I was respected within the industry as being a mechanic. And I've never seen anybody pick up the business as fast as Kurt Angle, as well as Kurt Angle, and turn into the performer that he turned into, just as far as in-ring work, psychology, and a promo. The guy kicked ass, and that's why he's still able to keep doing it, because he's still watching the goddamn matches.
Yeah, and I always tell people that they should do that because you learn what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, watch and listen. You can see when they got the people and what they do to lose the people. Right. Just fucking watch and listen.
Just watch.
It ain't rocket science.
But people nowadays think they're so good because they've made it to this level, they don't have to do anything else. They can just go out and do their own shit, and that's not how it works.
Yeah.
I've been doing it 17 years for a reason because I pay attention to the people, what they want.
So 36. We've covered briefly about how many more years you got in the tank. You said you got a lot left, but realistically, I mean, if nothing bad happened, 5, 10.
Yeah, I mean, if
I don't like to look that far down the road, so
right.
I'm not trying to answer. I don't. I need to shut up and let you answer the question.
No, I mean, like you said, I right now I feel like I can go 10 years. Whether I do or not, right. With everything I got in the works now, is still up in the air. But I mean, if I had to go 5, 10 years, I don't think that'd be a problem at all.
Hey man, what's a favorite building or town you like to wrestle in?
Man, that's here in the States or just anywhere?
Anywhere.
I love working over in England. Like in London, when we go over there, man, it's just,
what do you like about it?
It's just the fans are so respectful. It's just wild and crazy. You watch TV now, and a lot of fans, they just sit on their ass. Well, if I pay money to go to a show, I'm going to raise as much hell as I can.
Right.
But and here in the States, you see that all the time on TV, like the fans that sit there and just not even cheering. Over there, man, they're raising hell from the start of the show to the end.
Well, you people out there watching James Storm on the TNA, make a little bit of noise. This motherfucker done turned heel. Throw your drink at him or something.
Hopefully a beer.
He's looking for some reaction. Just don't hit him in his left eye. So they're talking to James Storm. Talking about Kurt Angle. James, you won a gold medal in the 1996 Olympics. You're aware of that, right?
I've heard that.
You heard it. That's a true story. You almost won a gold medal at the 2014 Olympics, correct?
That's damn true.
You came in with a silver, disappointing finish, but I think the guy that beat you was on some PEDs. They never drug tested him. If it hadn't been for that, you'd have probably won. Speaking of that, I'm sitting here with Cowboy James Storm. He's going to grab us 2 more tasty beverages from the freezer.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance? Of course you would. And when it comes to great rates on insurance, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners or renters coverage. Plus, add an easy-to-use mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance, and more. And Geico is an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save. It's simple. Go to geico.com or contact your local agent today.
I'm back. James Storm was sitting right in front of me. I got the computer open. We started talking. Man, we're doing more talking with the recorder off about a little bit of kayfabe business, and then we got to put the record button. So y'all missed out on a bunch of good shit, but we're going to get back into some good shit. Hey, man, so you're beating the road. You're making $5 a night. You know, you're paying your dues. You're learning the business. And then how long till you get that call and to go up to WCW to start making some dough?
I did some indie work for about 5 years, and then I started working with this guy named Bert Prentice that used to run some stuff in Nashville, and he had a little deal set up with WCW. Well, the whole Cowboy gimmick that I'm doing actually started out as a rib on this guy that was like talking a bunch of shit or whatever. Me and him was a tag team one time, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make fun of you. So it was just a rib on him, me making fun of him, and the sumbitch just took off. And so I started going to Nashville. Bert called me up there, started doing some shots, and he got some stuff with WCW. Then me and Biss, AJ Styles, a guy named Corey Williams, Ashley Hudson, and Air Paris, we all started going up to WCW, and we was the R&B security team for Vince Russo.
Right.
And then they put us on like worldwide matches and stuff like that, and we go out there and just we work with Chronic and Chavo, and they were doing like a military gimmick and stuff. But they wouldn't really, to me, I don't think they was really looking for guys. You know, they was just looking for guys to go out there and bump, because there was a situation that happened somewhere in Colorado where they had some guys that didn't know how to bump, and somebody like fell and almost hurt Hogan's leg or something. So they called down to Bert to get guys that knew how to bump, and so we started going up there and started bumping for these guys.
So what happened with the WCW run? I mean, you were there when they sold out?
Yeah, I was there when they sold out.
So you never was really ever able to get a good contract year?
No,
right.
we just went up there on a nightly basis. You know, we were making $500 a night. I thought I was rich as hell. You know, you going from $5, $10, $15 a night to here we go, $500 a night. And then they sold out. I was like, oh, shit, back to the Indies. And my uncle owned a construction business, so I started running a track hoe and backhoe and working on the weekends and all this. And then Terry Taylor called me up. He goes, hey, man, this company's about to start up. Won't you come and try out or whatever? So Jerry Jarrett was there, so I talked to him a little bit. And I wrestled Chris Harris, my old tag team partner, that night. And Bob Ryder came up to us and said, we'll be in touch with both of you guys, and signed a contract, and away I went.
Right now, you're in TNA. And you're the only original cat from day one.
Yeah, I'm the only one left. AJ Styles was.
How many years has that been now?
12 years.
God dang.
Yeah.
Time flies by, doesn't it?
Man, you don't think about it. Everybody's like, oh, especially with kids or whatever. Oh, you better hang around them because they grow quick. You don't really register it, and then 10, 15 years later, like, damn, where'd it go?
Answer me a question. When I first started watching TNA, y'all had that, what was it, hexagon ring?
Yeah, that six-sided ring.
Yeah, so it's a hexagon.
Yeah.
Not an octagon. That'd have been a UFC. Y'all have really been fighting.
I'd have been in trouble.
So, but that ring threw me. But they were really catering, am I wrong? It was more cruiserweight oriented back then.
Yeah.
But anyway, that ring bothered me. Did you like performing in that ring?
To me, it didn't really matter, but I just didn't like the look of it just because I grew up with a four-sided ring.
Tradition.
Yeah.
Four-sided ring. Squared circle.
Everybody always asks me how hard was it to work in it. And I'm like, it wasn't hard because I can only hit one damn rope at a time, so. Right. But it gave me, I don't jump off the top rope anyway, so I don't really care about that.
Because you're smart. No, hold on. No, stop.
Hey, but that's the truth, because I look at it, guys like you, you take yourself, Hunter, Rock. When's the last time you guys won the top rope?
I ain't jump off shit. Back when I was in Japan, I did, but hold on. We're talking about jumping. I was reading where I get a lot of my information on the Wikipedia. You had a basketball scholarship to Austin Peay University.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
Now, you just said that you can't jump, so you must have been one hell of a ball handler
or
one hell of a shooter.
I said I don't jump off the top rope.
But
still, I don't jump.
I mean, I can't jump over a June bug in my driveway. So, do you got a little bit of vertical jump
Oh,
on you?
yeah. I can still jump. And
Come on, James. You're talking to me.
I play
you
basketball.
You look at me right in the face. Only had 2 beers. Don't sit and lie to me. Can you jump? You think you cannot jump me?
We can try.
We could try. Now, I expect this motherfucker say, you damn right. I know I can jump higher than your crippled
Hey,
ass.
if you don't put your knee braces on, I believe I can out-jump you.
That's it. That's a little bit of respect from a younger guy to a true veteran like myself, paying me a little bit of respect. If you can't out-jump me, I'll have to whip your ass in my own front yard. But anyways, tell me about this basketball scholarship. I mean, was you a pretty good hoops player, obviously?
Yeah, I actually played point guard. I still play, you know. I grew up in a trailer park.
See, right now, you're the cat in a pickup game, all of a sudden, like the dude with the long hair, okay, you're going to be the last guy.
I'm the last guy picked.
And
then they're like, what the fuck happened here? I'm doing Steve Nash stuff out there on it. And I still play. I mean, a lot of guys in TNA, you know, they didn't believe I can play. And then, you know, we go to a basketball court and I start out hooping them. They're like, what the hell is going on here, you know? So, yeah.
But see, back in when you was in your grade school years, obviously you didn't have that wig. You had the short hair, I'm imagining.
No, I had the mullet going on.
You had the mullet going?
That's when it was cool.
But now it ain't a mullet, it's long hair.
Right, yeah.
Back then it was a mullet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Times have changed.
Times changed.
Are you still watching, right now as we speak, NBA playoffs are on.
Yeah.
Are you a basketball fan?
Yeah,
Who's your team?
Hell, me and JR's been going back and
You
forth.
Memphis guy?
Yep. So I was going for, you know, pulling for Memphis, and of course, you know, got the Thunder in it right now. And I told JR, I said, well, since Memphis is out, I got to pull for the team that beat my team, you know.
Right.
So that way we can say at least we got beat by the champs.
Who you going to pick to win it all?
I'm thinking OKC will win it all. I think if they get in the finals with Miami, I think they'll school Miami.
My mom's from Oklahoma, so you know, and I love what Kevin Durant's doing over there, and a couple of their guys. So I'm kind of like the Texas part of me wants OKC to win, but you know the soap opera part of me would like to see the Clippers go on and establish themselves now with the Lakers having the kind of year that they've had to kind of give the Clippers a little bit of momentum and you know make them into a key franchise.
Right, for once instead of playing second fiddle to the Lakers all the time.
Right. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Sterling's going to be forced to sell the team? Or
yeah, he should be. I mean, you know, somebody come out like that, like they should have to give that shit up.
But there's been a lot of people, some big wigs, some big names wanting to buy that franchise.
Yeah.
And that would be, I think that would be a great breath of fresh air to not just Los Angeles, but the NBA. And if for that franchise, if they could light it up and with the new ownership and breathe some new life into it, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
But you as a basketball player, so tell me about growing up in a trailer park.
Man, it was crazy because it was me and my 2 stepbrothers and my mom and my real brother, and there was 2 other families in there, white families. The rest of them was black.
Yep.
And I grew up with this guy named Derek Dawson, who was like one of the main drug dealer guys like around the town, but he was also a basketball player, and he was good. And he played at our school, and everybody voted him to go on and do other stuff, but he just couldn't get his shit together, and stayed on that crack and all this other stuff. So he's the one that kind of basically took me under his wing and taught me how to play ball and all this stuff. So and then that kind of just spiraled on, and I started playing in school and everything.
But let me ask you a question. Now, you're hanging out with the dude that's the main drug guy, and how did you not fall under that umbrella and start getting into the drug business? You was able to keep on the straight and narrow and go down the basketball road and now get into professional wrestling.
I had a redneck mom. She stayed on me, man, like all the time. Like she made sure that we were in certain time, that we kept our grades up, that we had to follow that rule. Like because my mom would. It ain't like nowadays where if a parent spanks a kid, they're in trouble.
Right.
My mom, she whooped her ass.
Oh, don't get me wrong, man. My if we messed up, my mom would break out that belt. And, I don't know. A lot of people ain't doing it these days, and that's their business. But, I mean, if you was messing up in our house, you're going to get that leather belt. If you messed up in the kitchen, mom's going to start playing on you with those wooden spoons, them cooking spoons, whipping your ass, like Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush, playing some shit on your ass. When I was, did you see this year's Hall of Fame?
Yeah. Yep.
Did you see or hear the speech done by Mr. T?
No, people were talking about it.
He was talking about his mother a whole lot. and how much he loved her and respected her. And they grew up in a bad side of town. I think they're in New York, if I'm not mistaken, Brooklyn maybe, whatever. But my point is, they grew up in a bad side of town, and he had a lot of brothers and sisters, and there was a lot of drugs around them, but there wasn't no drugs amongst them because their parents, his mom was so strict, and she raised those kids with discipline and respect, and none of them got into drugs, and they all went on to do good things. Mr. T went on to have the career that he had, and I think his son had just gotten his doctorate, and I think his daughter had just got her master's, I think the day before the Hall of Fame. So you come from a rough neighborhood, but didn't get into the drug scene.
No, like I said, my mama, she beat her ass, and hell, my brother's a state trooper now. So, he had basically a full ride to go to Vanderbilt on a baseball scholarship. But he grew up playing baseball his whole life, and when he got offered that scholarship, he said, I don't want it. He just didn't want to play anymore. He's just so tired.
Really?
Yeah. Full ride to Vanderbilt.
Yeah. That's a good school.
Yeah. He wasn't smart enough to go there anyway. But
but still.
All right. He was going to go. He could have went to the majors, and all. Yeah. He said, I want to do something else.
So is that you got any other siblings?
I had two stepbrothers that were killed by a drunk driver when I was 16 years old.
Right.
So, yeah. So.
All right, so here you go. Swig a beer for the working man. So you come out of this the trailer park, get in the business of pro wrestling. Your mother raised you right. In the business of pro wrestling, there's a lot of shit going on.
Yeah.
How you keep your nose clean, keep away from all that shit.
Man, I never was the type to do any kind of drugs. I just didn't see it. I've seen so many people messed up on it, whatever, and hell, I didn't really start drinking until I got into pro wrestling. But that's when I start, and that's my really drug of choice is beer. I don't take pills. I don't even take aspirin. I'll drink a beer or take a shot of Jack Daniels to kill the pain, and that's it.
Man, my damn wife, she won't even take a leave. You met her before she went over to Zumba class a while ago. She coming back from a cold, and she got a bad back. And I've been putting them damn Tiger Balm patches on her back. And I tell her, I said, man, that damn baby, I said, you got to take a leave or something. And she goes, well, is it okay to take one on an empty stomach? And I'm like, okay, I've been around the horn, okay? I was pretty much, I took a few pain pills back in the day when I needed to.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of a pain pill. But my wife is, she's that straight up, just taking a leave type thing. You're married, right?
Yeah.
And you got kids?
Yeah, got two kids, a little boy and a little girl.
And does your wife do the Zumba stuff, or you
she
said
does
she does
all
a
that shit.
ballet or something, or yoga thing?
She just told me today about some kind of I thought it was like stripping class because she said pole, but she says like some like ballet or some shit.
Yeah,
more me to do it. That ain't happening.
So no, talk to me about this, James. I think you need to take this with an open mind. If you were to go to this class with your wife and like dance.
No, let's go see you do some Zumba. I'm sure you still got them Zumba pants from back in the day. But your fanny pouch on. And
I got a key to the gym I train at half mile down the road. You're going to catch me at a lot of places doing a lot of things, but the place you ain't going to catch me at is doing Zumba with my wife. So tell me about your weightlifting schedule, your training schedule. Everybody always asks me, what was your workout routine when you was back on the road? And my answer is just kind of standard shit. I grew up, reading Powerlifting USA, reading Muscle and Fitness and all those magazines. Got trained like a bodybuilder, but I was a football player. Yeah. I'm an athlete first and foremost, and I always wanted to be a pro wrestler. So I just kind of, my physique is what it is. I ain't a genetic wonder by any stretch, but I just worked out to be fit and stick with the basics. What's your training routine now that you're still in the ring and still traveling on the road?
I don't work out as much as I should, but I'm one of those body types. I ain't never going to be jacked and have the 8-packs and 6-packs and all that.
Right. Only 6-pack you're going to have is in the bag in your right hand that you walked in the front door with.
That's
Same
it.
with me. Yeah.
That's it. I work out 5 days a week. I go do my cardio and I do my lifting at night. And
what do you do for cardio?
Tires. I pick up tires and like we got a parking lot out front, and I'll just pull them, or I do a bunch of jump ropes or whatever. I don't do treadmills and elliptical machines and all that stuff.
The thing about you can be a real hardcore person on a treadmill or an elliptical, but that doesn't always translate to the ring.
No,
brother. Once you get in there, you start kicking and punching and wrestling. and you're in the crowd and you got a little bit of nerves to boot with it, with some adrenaline pumping on top of that, you can blow up quicker than quick.
Yep.
And so you see a lot of cardio kings out there, but all of a sudden they get in that ring, mister, it's a whole different ball game. I'd made a couple comebacks back in the day, and I'd, do my due diligence, do what I could, but not having access to a ring.
Yeah.
When I first went to WWF, a lot of people don't know it. I went up to Al Snow's school in Lima, Ohio. I always had a lot of respect for Al Snow's work, and he had a pretty good school up there. So I went and spent 5 days with him to kind of knock some of the rust off coming back from my tricep injury coming out of ECW. And then it took me about 2 solid months of working with Savio Vega, a Puerto Rican guy, and Savio.
Yeah.
You know Savio.
Oh, yeah.
Hell of a guy. Hell of a worker. And, man, he kicked my ass for, at least 4 weeks. And when I started getting into shape, mister, there wasn't anybody on the card that could follow that match. He got me in shape. There ain't nothing like ring shape.
No, that's what I always tell people. I'm like, you can stay on that treadmill for an hour. You give me 30 minutes, flipping tires and swinging a hammer or something where I'm physically moving all the time. Because I always tell people we always stop and start, stop, start,
right.
stop. And you don't do that in treadmill. You're just sitting there just running the whole time.
And when you explode, I mean, whether you're firing up, coming back, or it's time to get vicious and get some heat, and you done blowed up all your energy shining a summbitch up for 7 to 10 minutes. Now you got to get some heat, but you too blowed up, so you lay in a rear chin lock for 5 minutes, and call the 2 obligatory hope spots, which are 2 or 3 steppers. That's bullshit. You didn't get your shit in.
Right.
You didn't establish any heat.
Yeah.
All you did was hold the summits down. That's not acceptable. When people are paying $25, $30, I don't know what the price of a ticket is, they ain't paying to see you lay in a rear chin lock. And I'm not running down a rear chin lock. I use it a lot of times. But you got to get your shit in first before you grab that hold.
Right.
Because at some point you do got to grab that hold. But you can't just shut a motherfucker down who you've been shining up for 10 minutes, get 60 seconds of heat and sit until hold.
Well, the crowd's going to shit on it anyways. Why are they going to care about somebody, a babyface that's been whooping the shit out of the heel the whole time? The heel holds there for, the heel didn't do nothing.
You can't get behind him. No. And you got to cheat during the process of getting that heat as well. Give him some good hope spots. And, anyway, I'm rambling on. But, I watch some of these cats in the UFC. I know you're a big UFC fan as well. And, man, you talk about taking conditioning to a whole nother level. Man, them dudes are absolutely insane. and I dig it the most. I think, if I'd have played some of their training principles into what I was doing back in the day, I don't know what I could have done in the ring. Because I was one of those guys that kind of had a reputation for never blowing up. But I blew up often. But I just worked through it.
Right.
I just keep going.
You didn't show it. Yeah.
I'm going to put on my show. Yeah, because people didn't pay whatever they paid to see me suck wind.
Right.
They paid to see me whoop ass. But are you taking your training to the highest level that you can, or you think you're status quo, you're cool where you at?
No.
Is there room for improvement?
Oh.
What is the next step for James Storm then to up your ante?
You talking about like cardio-wise?
No, cardio. Just bring what you bring to the squared circle.
It's just, man, to beat the shit out of the babyface, to make them care about this guy that I'm kicking the shit out of, even if they like me. They're like, man, that shit wasn't right. Okay, we got to cheer for this guy to whoop his ass. And that's my whole mentality is I don't want to be cheered. I want to go back to the days where them some bitches come out and try to set my fucking car on fire, or want to stab me or something. Like, I want heat, It's hard to get it these days.
Watching your in-ring work, and you come from the Tennessee, Nashville area, you grew up watching USWA, correct?
I remember one of my favorite guys watching was Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert back in the day.
But you don't work like hot stuff.
No.
So my question to you is, and man, you're coming from Lawler country, from Dutch country, from Dundee country, Fargo country, Jarrett country, who really influenced your body of work? Who did you look to as your go-to guy? Okay, here's a question. Who's your favorite pro wrestler of all time? Because you're going to have you guys, Ric Flair camp, Hogan camp, Terry Funk camp, Dory Funk, Harley Race. Who's your favorite of all time? One answer.
Mr. Perfect.
Kurt Hennig.
Yeah.
I'll be damned.
He was my favorite of all time. And I remember when he came to TNA, he would actually sit there, man, when I come back. He goes, why in the fuck did you do that? And he would sit me down and tell me, don't do that, don't do this. And we go out afterwards and have a beer. We talk about it.
When I first rolled into WWF, Kurt Hennig and I crossed paths a few times while I was in WCW and he was in WWF. And, Kurt, he was cool with everybody. Everybody loved and respected Kurt. And he was just a great ribber, but he was just a great person.
Yeah.
And a wonderful sense of humor. And if he was having a bad day, you'd never know it because he had a smile on his face. As soon as I rolled into WWF, the first thing he did was come up to me and goes, "Hey, I want you to meet somebody." He took me into the production truck and introduced me to Kevin Dunn. He goes, "This is Kevin Dunn. This is Steve Austin. He's working here. This is the guy you need to know. He can help you out." And he didn't have to do that.
Right.
He didn't have to go out of his way to introduce me to Kevin Dunn and the production truck. Me and Kevin Dunn are good friends to this day, and who was paramount in many of the things that were done for me. But that's the kind of guy that Kurt Hennig was.
Yeah.
What was it about him? To me, Kurt just had, first of all, he was badass, solid worker. Everything he did looked great. I've never seen anybody have so much energy or jump in their legs.
Right.
The way he could sell a leg trip or some of the crazy
yeah.
bumps, I've never seen anybody that had the explosion in their legs that he did.
Even just taking, just head into the turnbuckle. That's something
Right.
to flip all the way back across the ring or over the ropes or something. And I go back to these days and still watch his matches and just seeing how the stuff was put together and how he worked it. I mean, to me, he was beyond his time. Like it was great just watching him and how easy he made it look. How he made the other guy look so good by bumping around him.
Okay, so you're a Kurt Hennig guy. Got another couple cold beers for James Storms and myself as we delve back into conversation here at 316 Gimmick Street. Okay, let's talk promos. Who's your number one promo guy?
Michael Hayes.
God dang. Boy, I think you talk about music to my ears. Kurt Hennig as your number one worker, pro wrestler, awesome answer. And that's the thing about pro wrestling. It's all subjective.
Right.
People always want us to make their top fives. It's all subjective. It's what you like. And Michael Hayes, man, I talked to him on my podcast a couple of weeks ago at WrestleMania 30. And I didn't do any research because I didn't know who I was going to talk to.
Right.
And I forgot to even bring up the point, when they blinded JYD back in the day. But, man, when they came to Dallas, Texas, man, the Sportatorium, that smelly, beer-infested cigarettes everywhere, and that's where I broke in. And I was paying as a fan. I was playing football at North Texas State University. And the Freebirds come in and fight them damn Von Erichs, mister. And Michael Hayes come down with that Confederate flag shiny robe on and get up on that second turnbuckle with that blonde hair. God damn, I wanted to whip his ass. God, I love Michael Hayes.
Yeah.
But you talk about talking trash all day long, talking Blue Streak, and make it mean something.
Yep, and that's to me. I'll go back and I'll listen to his promos. It's so old that it's new again. Like wrestling fans nowadays don't remember that stuff. And to me that was wrestling back in the day when it wasn't the cool heel. You wanted to kill that guy.
Yeah.
You wanted to whoop his ass and hopefully you lived through the baby face.
Yeah.
And
when I used to look at the Freebirds, of course Terry Bam Bam Gordy was the BMF.
Yeah.
You don't know, he was the muscle. And what I liked about Michael's work, when it came time to get the heat, he just shifted gears. He was a lot like Adrian Adonis. He wasn't the most fluid worker, but when it came time to get heat, he got really mean and nasty. There was a total change in body language and presentation. And then when you looked at Buddy Jack Roberts, it's like, okay, now I know I can't fuck with Bam Bam. And Michael talks a lot of shit, but he looks pretty tough too, and he's mean, so I probably can't fuck with him. And then you look at Buddy Jack Roberts, he goes, I know I can kick his ass. And Buddy Jack Roberts was the guy that everybody knew that they could kick his ass if they got in a fight with him. Yep. He'd get some bitch.
And it was funny because I was actually on a plane. It was about 6 months ago, and Hayes was on my plane, and I already went to sleep or whatever, and all of a sudden I feel somebody kick my leg, and I woke up and he was standing right there, and so me and him sat there and bullshit a little while, and I messed up and I asked him a question. I said, well, hell, where are you headed to? And without hesitation, he goes, Bad Street, Atlanta, GA. And I had that Mark moment for a second. I got popped. I was like, oh, that was awesome.
Hey, for you wrestling fans out there that ain't never seen the Bad Street USA video, go get on YouTube. Just Google in Bad Street USA. I still watch that. I'll watch that video, I don't know, 2 or 3 times every here and there, like a couple times a year. But it had a good beat, a good hook, and the video to it was just tremendous. And those guys were cutting edge. But check out Bad Street USA to you people that ain't never seen that video before, because they was way ahead of their time. All right. Favorite match of all time?
Favorite match of all time? Whew.
Okay, and that's so tough to really ask. But just give me one of your favorite matches that you watched and weren't in.
Well, hell, I don't know about that now.
Because I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah, fuck.
You have the dubious distinction, mister.
I'm actually going to have to say, I forgot what year it was, but it was actually one of the Von Erichs and Freebird matches, because I just watched it on a DVD. I forgot what year it was, but it was at the stadium.
Yeah.
And I just just like you said, I remember watching it and just thinking, if I was there, that I wish I had a gun to shoot that son of a bitch, because I lived through the Von Erichs growing up. I used to watch the AWA all the time, and when they had Scott Hall was in there and all these guys, man, and it was just, that was the time to be around.
Hey, you're such a big wrestling fan. What were you thinking? I was in college and going back and forth. And Denton, Texas was about 30 miles from Dallas Sportatorium, and I'd go there on Friday nights or Saturday mornings to watch the shows. Friday nights was the show, and then Saturday morning was a TV show that they taped live to tape that showed that night on KTVT Channel 11. Man, when in Von Erichs, first, David died, and he said died overseas, some intestinal problems, whatever.
Right.
Something going on there. And then who was next? I think it was Mike.
Mike.
In a sleeping bag, the OD. And then Chris. And then Kerry. And what were your thoughts when all that was going on? Because, man, I talked to Kevin, I think about a year ago. I've been wanting to talk to him on the show. But, man, such tragedy in that family. And you weren't there. You were in Tennessee. I was in Texas. But the Von Erichs were just total rock stars, total gods. You cannot understand how over the Von Erichs were and how much the people in Texas loved them. And I loved to go cheer for them, and I paid my money to see them fight the Von Erichs.
Right.
So what were you thinking when all the bad things started happening to the family?
Man, it was just one of those things. Like you said, I grew up watching these guys, and then when you start hearing about them just dying one by one, it's just a huge, black cloud over that family that could never get lifted. Right. And it was a black eye of pro wrestling, because imagine if these guys would have kept doing what they were doing.
Right.
That's what I always think, man. Like, if these guys could have still been around, they could have helped so many other young guys coming up. Like, this is how to be a fucking babyface.
Right. Hey, you when I do cardio every now in my garage, if I put something on, a lot of times my go-to cardio stuff is stuff from the mid-'80s, NWA. I watch a lot of Full Horseman stuff, a lot of stuff from Magnum TA. Of course, Dusty was running strong. Flair was Flair. And Keita was, and Ivan Koloff. And that was kind of my go-to cardio stuff that's near and dear to my heart. I didn't get the best of the AWA because everything was more regional then, and I was down in South Texas.
Right.
I didn't start catching AWA action until it was on the decline, and so I say that with due respect to the guys that were working in the promotion, but I wasn't getting their best stuff. Then of course, I was getting NWA, I was getting Mid-South and Power Pro, and then finally I started getting, WWF. But what's your go-to stuff? Like, if you had to pick a body of work or a period from a promotion, what would you pick?
To me, I have to go back to USWA. That's what I mainly grew up on, just being from Tennessee, and Lawler and Dundee, and you had all these guys that were, and yourself came in and through there. I mean, and I was like, there's so many names that came through that territory at the time when I was growing up. It's
anybody ridiculous. And everybody,
yeah,
and some big stars that they made into big stars.
Yeah, and I got the chance to see them growing up. When I was young, like I told you earlier, I got a picture of me and Dutch Mantell when I was 8, and and Taker came through there, and everybody came through there. So it was cool to see those guys and kind of remember it now. And then see him now,
Yeah.
But I would have to say, it was at USWA, mid, 90s, right at the 88 to, 90, 92, something like that.
So what was it about the business that when you was a kid, you just said, okay, maybe not I'm going to be a pro wrestler, but what attracted you to the business? Because I remember vividly, and I forgot half my career, getting hit in the head with steel chairs, all the other bullshit. I forgot a lot of stuff. But I remember watching TV there in Edna, Texas. My mom was on the chair reading her magazine, flipping through it. She wasn't really watching. Someone had Dusty Rhodes in an iron claw. He was bleeding like a pig. It was Houston wrestling there at the Sam Houston Coliseum, smoke-filled arena, and there was just a little rope banister keeping the marks out of the damn ring, the fans from the ring. Smoke-filled arena, you could only see about this 2 or 3 rows back. It was just blacked out, one light over the ring. And you could almost smell them cigarettes coming through your TV, and it was real. Yeah. And there was a security guard, one security guard slowly strolling around that ring, And Dusty's bleeding like a motherfucker. Someone's got to help him. Finally, I looked at my mother and I said, damn it. I didn't say, damn it. I said, Mom, why don't that security guard help Dusty? Because I didn't know what the fuck.
Right.
I knew what was going on, but I wanted someone to help Dusty. He's bleeding. And so that's when I fell in love with it, and I watched it my entire life. So what made you fall in love with the business?
Man, I think it was just going there with my grandfather and stuff to the fairgrounds and stuff.
So he was taking himself.
Yeah.
He was a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I would go with him, and I would see how, he would react to this. He was one of those guys, kill that son of a bitch. Yeah. He'd get up. And I remember he had a sock full of damn nickels he took all the time. And he wanted to swing, and, he just wanted to hit a heel. And, I'm 6, 7, 8 years old, and watching my grandfather doing this. And I would see these guys. To me, they was larger than life. They were coming out, like you said, at the fairgrounds. They got that one light that hangs over the ring there, man. And it was just, but that was, to me, that was like Madison Square Garden. I'm like, man, this is like the coolest shit ever, when I was young. And, I just followed it growing up. And then, when I got out of school, all through school, I was like, I want to be a pro wrestler. And everybody's like, I never heard someone say they want to be a pro wrestler.
Right.
And I said, well, I do. And I'm going to be one way or another.
I remember one time we was working in Nashville at the fairgrounds, and I think it was a tag match or whatever, and Tojo Yamamoto was out there, and he had his briefcase with him. And this damn old lady on the front row, I know she'd probably been coming for 100 years because she was 120 years old. She was old and frail, and Tojo was very savvy and very smart.
Yeah.
And he was a hell of a guy in the ring back in the day.
Yeah.
But he was managing at this time, later on in his career, and she got up behind Tojo. And this is, I don't know if you remember this, but back in Nashville, back in those days, and this is around 1990, but the chairs were the folding wooden chairs, slatted chairs that were heavy. Those chairs probably weighed, 10 pounds. But that old lady had picked up a chair and had shellacked Tojo flat on top of his head with that damn wooden chair. And if you think a steel chair hurts, magnify that times 5 because his wooden chair weighed that much more. Yeah. And Tojo went down like a shot. I'll never forget it. It was. I hate to say it was funny back in the day, but
right.
It was funny because this old lady was so old, but she hated Tojo to your point of being a heel and wanting to be hated.
Yeah.
They hated Tojo. And at the time, they loved him, but then when it was time to get heat, they hated him. And she slapped that son of a bitch on top of the head, and he went down like a shot. And it was the damnedest thing I ever saw. You couldn't tell people back then pro wrestling was fake.
Oh, no, especially my grandfather. Because, like
fighting words.
He wanted to kill Tojo, too. Like, I remember him always saying, because my grandfather served in the war and stuff, and he was like, you killed my buddies in Bar Harbor, you son of a bitch, all this stuff. But then, so I started hating him. But then in later life, I found out he was Hawaiian. Yeah. he wasn't even Japanese.
Hey, is there a favorite angle that you liked to watch unravel?
Talking about my angle or just
any angle? Whether if yours is the best angle, give it to me.
No, it's to me it's hard to say. Me and Bobby, I think we had a great kind of angle going on with.
Well, let's talk about you and Bobby for a second because this dude's from Bobby Roode. Fine young gentleman in the ring, squared circle. He's from Canada. Yeah. You're from Nashville, Tennessee. Now, and then you was with Chris Harris, but how did you guys ultimately end up being tag teamed together?
Dutch Mantel.
Really?
Yeah. He goes. You two son of bitches are so opposite. We're gonna put you guys together and see what happens. And
So what Bobby Roode say?
He did the same thing I did. If they want to put us together, keep us on the roster a little longer, so be it.
Right.
So we sat around and we was thinking of a name. We came up with the name Beer Money, and we went.
How long did it come to take? How long did it take to come up with the name Beer Money?
10 minutes.
That was a good name.
Yeah.
I was mad I didn't think of that. Not that I want to be in a tag team, after I got out with the Hollywood Blondes and Flying Brian, because I want to be a singles wrestler, but that was a damn good tag.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a good name.
Yeah, and so Dutch came up to us, and we told him the name. He goes, all right, sounds good. And we went out there, and they introduced us Beer Money, and away we went.
How long did it take y'all guys to gel together to when you really became a team? Because when they put me and Brian together, I was down there, and I think it was Dothan, Alabama, and I was fixing to get a singles push as a U.S. champion with Harley Race as my manager. How much better does it get than a U.S. champ with Harley Race as your manager? And all of a sudden, here comes Flying Brian coming up behind me with that raspy voice. Hey, kid, we need to think of a finishing move because you and I are a tag team now. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? I said, I'm fixing to do a singles run with Harley. He goes, no, we're a tag team now. I said, who said? He said, Dusty. So I went and talked to Dusty. I go, yeah, baby, that's what I'm telling you. He go, we'll make you got the tag team. You can be whatever. So Brian come up with the names. Because when I first went out there, shitty looking red and black trunks. And Brian had that Bengal colored shit from Cincinnati. And then we turned into the Hollywood Blondes. It was all his idea. I give him all the credit on that. The name, the gold chains, the vest, the matching trunks. But then we started gelling as a team 3, 4, 5 months down the road. And boy, we was some motherfuckers in. How long did it take you and Bobby Roode to really start clicking?
It took us about 3 or 4 months.
Boy, I can ask about a 5-minute question, can't I?
I was like, I forgot where he started with this shit. No, but just when we first got together, we still kind of learning. I mean, we worked together. He's Team Canada and I was AMW. Yeah. We worked together, so we were familiar with each other. When we did our tag team moves and all this. But to finally get to gelling and figuring out like our heel stuff that we were going to do, because we started out as heels with Jacqueline. We had Miss Jackie with us, and it took us a little bit to kind of get going, but once we did, like you said, man, it just rolled, it just snowballed.
Now, what did you like? Because you'd been for the most part a singles wrestler up until that point, but then you had like 12 tag team championships or more now.
Oh, hell, I can't remember. I think,
but anyway, you've been a tag team wrestler for a long time now. What do you prefer?
I actually prefer tag team wrestling. I mean, because there's an art to it that a lot of people don't get. Because I grew up watching Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, all these guys, man, and just going out and and a lot of people don't understand it. They just think, oh, 2 guys can get out there and they can put on a match. That's not how it works. It takes guys with true talent to put a good tag team match together.
It's funny because back in the day, you could put myself when I was really hot and The Rock when he was really hot against 2 other people. And we could go out there and work a tag match with them. And, it was great because you had 2 hot baby faces out there. But as far as tag team wrestling, it was not. It was 2 singles matches.
2 single guys.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
And I say that with all
you might
respect.
Get in there and say, double shoot off, double elbow. That's fine.
Well, the fact is you're not a tag team. You're not working as a tag team. You're not cutting off the ring.
Right.
A la, Arn and Ole Anderson, Arn and Tully Blanchard, cutting off the ring and keeping that, the opposing team on your side once you get into the heat. So all of the tactics involved, it's all about tag team wrestling, 2 guys working as one. It was 2 guys working as singles. So tag team wrestling is an art form. And, again, I've harped on it, on my past podcasts, but I'm just a big fan of tag team wrestling because a well-done tag can steal the show any night of the week if you've got 4 badass cats in there, 2 really good teams, and a badass ref to go.
Yeah, and that's how. And I always say there's all kinds to make a wrestling match. From the announcer to the guys in the ring working to the referee. It takes everybody to make a good match. But everybody talks about Beer Money and the Motor City Machine Guns. We had like a best of 5 series. We went out there and we just tore it up because you had heels that knew how to be heels. Right. And then you had the baby faces that people loved who would do this high flying stuff. And, but we cut that so much off. We didn't do high spots. Right. It wasn't. So to me, that's how heel tag team need to be. They don't need to be doing all this flipping and stuff. You say that for the baby faces.
I'm sitting here talking to Cowboy, James, Storm, and this is where we got to hit the stop button for today. We're going to pick things up next Thursday. We're going to jump into some of my pet peeves when I watch tag team wrestling.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
This February on Pluto TV, we're putting the spotlight on iconic black talent. Watch your favorite movies like Top 5, 48 Hours, and More Than a Game. And drop in to binge black TV classics like The Bernie Mac Show and Moesha. Pluto TV has hundreds of channels and thousands more movies and TV shows, all for free. So download the Pluto TV app on your favorite streaming device and start watching today. Pluto TV, drop in, watch free.
I'm Dave Detman, also known as Dr. Gadget. I've got a new podcast called The Big Idea, and every week I talk to inventors and visionaries who made it big in their respective industries. We'll tackle weekly trending tech, provide inside tips for your success, and go deep dives on the latest and greatest innovations. And I know you're going to love this part. I'll also have plenty of free giveaways. Who doesn't love free stuff? So listen to and follow The Big Idea with me, Dr. Gadget, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast One, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy, Big Brother Jake, a.k.a. Jake Warner, my government name. Check it out. I host a show called the Big Brother Jake Podcast, and I've taken my talents to the biggest and baddest platform on the planet. That's right, baby, Podcast One. My show is unique as I talk about everything. Life, sports, entertainment, being a single dad juggling several jobs. I'm a hot mess, but it's damn entertaining. Subscribe and review now on Apple Podcasts and listen on Podcast One or wherever you get your podcasts.